an "Are you okay?" sigh.
I'm just over it, mate. We're on. We are on, everybody.
We're on. Okay.
We are on. There we are. We are live now. I should put a little all live notifications. Oh, yeah, that's on. That's good. I'll share this to a whole bunch of different places.
Hello, Facebook. We're going to just share for a little bit. We'll be with you in a moment as our
This is the only way you can do it. Like, there's no other way to do it, unfortunately. It'd be good if we could do it another way, but we can't, unfortunately.
No. Am I going to get the old... Am I going to even get... Oh, yep, there's the share button. Share to the exceptionals. There we go. Write a post. Here we go. Live podcast time. Righto, that's that one. And send it out to the world. Hello, Wendy Adams.
How does she do it?
Wendy Adams or Julie Hill?
I reckon well, Julie Hill, Wendy Adams, and Helen Pocock. We'll see Helen on in a second.
No, she sent me a message. She can't make it today.
What?
She said, I know. She said, what time you're recording? Because I'm probably breaking privacy rules, but Zuckerberg heard it all anyway.
The 1 o'clock one will be the one. That's the new time slot, isn't it?
Yeah. Hi. Just wondering what time you're recording today. I said 2:30. Okay, we'll have to listen to the replay as I have an appointment, but I'm there in spirit. Watching you guys is definitely a highlight in my week.
Wow.
Pray sign, love heart.
Pray sign. Isn't it a
pray
thank
emoji,
you sign?
pray
Isn't
emoji, pray emoji. Well, yeah, I kind of use it as a thank you.
Yeah.
I'd use it as a bit of everything. I use it far too much to the point where I feel like it's losing its effectiveness in my ability to add tone and emphasis to certain messages.
Okay.
Here's an episode for you. What is your most overused emoji?
Oh, that's a great.
Mine's in the comments.
Mine's a smiley face because that's all this is the only emoji I use. It's true. It's true.
Pop in the comments your most overused emoji. Oh dear. All right. Shall we go?
Yeah, I'm just doing this listeners questions answered.
It's my birthday today. Oh, Krista Mountford. Happy birthday.
Wow, look at all these Leos.
So good. Leo's rule the world, baby. We're getting some emojis in.
Who rules the world?
The palm over the head. And the hands up. I love it, Ashley. Fiona Davis, she's always laughing. Tears of laughter.
You know the one that I'm using
Wendy
a lot
Adams.
of at the moment?
Yeah.
The one with the little emoji says like that. And then the other one with like that.
Yeah.
I'm using that
Oh, my poor Victorian friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Piercy, for Monday, just gone.
Thank you. Let's hit record. We haven't hit record. Or do you want to keep just having a
No, let's do it. Let's record it.
Okay.
Record
All right. Here we go. Pop in your favourite emojis. Let's go. Oh, no, not more Leos. That's your dad, Damo.
That's from Larry.
He's trolling.
How happy do you think he is?
No. Why? I don't know.
As Larry. I reckon he's as happy as
Larry. Happy as Larry.
Yeah,
sorry. Dad joke. I'm not in dad joke mode for another couple of hours.
Ravi would like that one.
Ravi be all over that. All right, here I go.
Ashley will like that too. Ashley Larry will like that.
In 3, 2, and 1. Hello and welcome to 100 Not Out, a weekly show dedicated to helping you master the art of aging well. Marcus Pearce here with you for, I think, episode 439. And as always, I get to shoot down to Melbourne. And for the very first time, I don't know that it's the right thing to say I have the privilege of being in lockdown with him, but I am going down to a lockdown buddy from Byron Bay down to Melbourne. We have one more thing in common, and it is that we are in lockdown together. Australia's #1 wellness expert, Dr. Damien Christoph. Hello, legend.
Wow. Hello, legend. Thanks for having me. Welcome to the club, the Lockdown Club. It's great. I thought you were going to say for the very first time, we are in our 40s together.
Oh,
and
yes!
Happy birthday to you, Piercy.
Two things.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday to you.
Well, and
hey.
you made a video. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I wanted to know, because last week when we recorded, prior to your birthday, I requested that people would send you a video or a happy birthday. And I want to know how many people did that for you, Piercy.
Okay.
How much love did you get?
First of all, hello to Anna Breslin, who's listening in Ireland. She's my Irish family, or she's like my Irish sister.
Did Anna do one of the videos?
Yep, Anna was in the video. Anna and Charlie were sipping champagne, reading Your Exceptional Life with Happy Birthday.
With the Happy Birthday. And they had
they won the Academy Award.
That was great. That was a great performance.
Next level.
Great performance. If you don't know what we're talking about, Sarah, Marcus's beautiful wife, arranged for a whole bunch of people to make videos and then send them through to her, and then she sent them through to me on WhatsApp, and then I assembled them and made a 42-minute long docu-movie on Marcus's Pierce's exceptional life for his 40th birthday.
Wow, it was a great birthday gift from you, Damo, and from my beautiful wife to connect. And I've had some good conversations with people this week that I haven't spoken to for a few years, thanks to that video. So
there you go.
Very blessed. And I got a message from Helen Pocock. I got an audio message from Seth Ballesteros. I got a few other messages from listeners either on Facebook Messenger or Instagram DM or text message or email. So I was feeling the love, and in the most selfish firstborn Leo way, I was so grateful that Byron Bay went into lockdown at 6 o'clock the night of my birthday rather than if I was born on Tuesday, August 10, and I would have been all excited and then went into lockdown the night before, because I got to do everything that a free human being could possibly do on Monday.
Yeah.
We got a boat and boated up the Brunswick River for a couple of hours. We had freedom, and I went and got a massage and did a couple of beautiful things, and anyway, had lunch with friends on a Saturday and lunch with family on a Sunday, and things that you can do when you're not in lockdown. So to everyone that helped make my 40th a very special event, I am eternally grateful, and you're a big part of that, Damo, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Piercy. Thank you, Piercy. Well, congratulations. Well done. 40 years, lots of things, and there's lots of great things said about you in that video, and I was grateful to be able to watch all those videos and assemble them all. So it was great. It was wonderful. One of the things we've been meaning to do for a while, Piercy, and I'm going to segue uncomfortably. I'm just going to change direction.
Please do.
Is we've been wanting to answer people's questions, because people have been asking us questions, and we haven't been ignoring them. We've just been trying to work out how do we bring that into an episode and do it justice. And so we've had to think about some of the answers for some of these questions. But Pritesh, you are prolific in asking us questions, and we appreciate it so much. So thank you very much. And Pete Lennon, you're a contributor, and we love that too. So thank you very much. And Ravi, you might have accidentally sent your questions to beforethedip@gmail.com instead of actually to marcus@marcuspierce.com.au. But that's where we want them, or on Facebook or Instagram. Send them to us. That'll be ideal. Julie, love to get a question from you. Larry, give us a question. Ashley, give us a question. Anna, all the way from Ireland, ask us some questions, and we'll bring that into an episode where we answer questions from our listeners. Piercy.
Yep. All right, are you ready?
Fire away.
All right, and again, if you want to send us a question, direct message us at 100 Not Out on Facebook or on Instagram at 100.notout. I reckon we go to Pete Lennon's first, because I think it's we'll just chop and change, because we've got two from Pritesh. Pete's is very topical, and I think one that we can all relate to. So I might just give him the benefit of reading it word for word rather than summarising it, because whenever you summarise, you always miss the most important points. Righto, boys, I have a question, and not surprising, it has to do with teenagers. I'm really concerned about the long-term impact COVID, new saturation, and lockdowns will have on the mental health of teenagers. We know from research, don't ask me to cite that research, that we see the impacts of trauma 3 to 4 years down the track. So what are we going to see? And related to that, I listened to Dr. Gabor Mate recently, renowned expert on trauma, and he said the body does not take an inventory on trauma, meaning well-meaning discussions about, well, you haven't been through a war or a Holocaust or a massacre, so what are you really worried about, is a bad way of looking at it. What do you guys reckon? I know I work with teenagers in the mental health space, so it's what I see, but I am worried. The impact of heightened cortisol levels and adrenaline, I don't know what I'm talking about, but Damo will. Over and out. So a bit in there. Damo, I'll go to you first. What's your feelings at the minute about the long-term impact of news saturation and lockdowns will have on the mental health of teenagers? Now, you don't have a teenager, but Jackson's only a couple of years post-teenage life. You've probably got a lot more real-world experience in this than I do.
Well, it's such a great question, and it's multi-layered, I suppose, in the answer and the way in which we would address this. And I've got to be really careful that I'll say outwardly and openly that obviously I'm a primary healthcare practitioner. I have the ability to speak to people when they're going through shift and change and challenge, and in this particular case, with regards to this particular question, it's a mental health issue, right? So it's outside of my wheelhouse to be a practitioner in this space. I'm not an expert. Yeah. So I'll give you my perspective and the way in which I might look at this. But just please know that if I did see somebody who is triggered at the moment or had mental health challenges that they felt were out of control at this point in time, I would refer them to someone that could help them. And I know that a lot of people are inundated, and this lockdown in Melbourne, which was extended today by another week, 7 days, has had a very significant impact on a lot of people's mental health and their well-being. I know that Lifeline and Gotcha for Life and Man Anchor and all of, and Blue, whatever. Beyond Blue, like all of these well-meaning organisations will be overrun. Like they'll just be overrun right now. So I'm just going to preface this and say it's good to turn to your friends and family, particularly those that are closest to you. Because in the absence of someone being able to help you on the phone, you can turn to your friends and family, and that's really important. Don't be shy in doing that. People would welcome the chance to help you in every single case. There's no doubt about it. So I look at this in two different ways, because I look at Jackson, and I look at how he handles stress, and he handles stress in a very water off a duck's back, pragmatic way. He's had stress in his life. There's been lots of shift, lots of change. There's been lots of emotional upheaval. There's been lots of things that for some people that could register as a challenge for them, that they may actually struggle with, but both at the point of the challenge, but then also may struggle in the future on reflection. My life was X, Y, Z, and this is how I got brought up. And that's probably how I deal with things. Like as a teenager or as a child, I had things happen in my life, and then I reflect on that, and then I reflect on how I lived my life back then and and how that impacted me. Jackson doesn't do that, as far as I know. Like Jackson's approach to stress management is really different to mine. Now, on the flip side, I've had patients come into my practice the other day, or during this week, who are teenagers doing year 12, who at the announcement of the lockdown broke into tears and said, I just can't do this anymore. I have had a dentist come into my practice, kneel on my table after being adjusted and say, I cannot keep going on. I cannot do this anymore. And the heaviness and the heartbreak associated with all of this will have implication for people right now, and for some people. But for other people, they'll just go, oh, well, it is what it is. I'll just move on. So I think the impact that it's going to have on some teenagers will be nothing. Like it's not going to have an impact on them. They're not going to worry about it. They'll go have their vaccination, they'll get about it, they'll just go, do you remember those 2 years in our life? It was a bit poo. We didn't get to have year 12, but, so be it. And that's the way that they think. But there's other people that might live differently to that and have a different mindset around that, and they might actually find that it's more of a challenge for them, and they're the people that we all really need to get around, because, and this is where the village raises the child, and this is where the village needs to become involved, is that the community that these kids are in need to be open and available to not fix, but to listen. So that whole adage of listen, don't fix, be there for people. The solution is to be there for people. In terms of the impact, some people will have a PTSD type impact. I know that, and I'll be open with everybody here listening to this, and this is going to obviously Mark Zuckerberg and whoever else is actually watching it. But whenever I hear the name Daniel Andrews, I have a heart rate variability that's uncontrollable. Whenever I hear of another lockdown, it significantly impacts my health and well-being. Like, it really does. And so I speak to somebody about that every week. I speak to my friends about all of this as well, and so people are very aware of, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. So I'm open and I get this stuff out. Now, I know that there'll be people who have an experience that's similar to mine, but they don't speak about it, and I think that is potentially dangerous in the future. And so, Pete, what I would say is that those teenagers and adolescents who don't speak about the way in which they feel right now, who don't have people probing and asking them questions, if people aren't asking them in what will be a suitable time frame or at the right time, if they're not asking them how they're going, or is there anything I want to talk about, or how does that trigger them, or what's that making them feel like, or what's that news do to you, or if they're not there, that's when the damage will be created. So, and they're the ones that we've got to be looking out for. Now, that's the predictable stuff, Pete. There's the unpredictable stuff, because there could be people, just like I mentioned before with Jackson, who are relatively water off a duck's back, somewhat pragmatic, let things go, don't really worry too much about it. But in a few years' time, it might come back to roost and go, you know what, I really missed out on that period of time in my life, and I regret that, or whatever. But again, we're all going to need to be rallying around everybody to make sure that they're okay. And and I'm saying this quite generally because I can't be specific about it, because everybody's individual, and I'm not qualified in this space. I just know that, having been a practitioner for 25 years and been involved in counselling people for that long, I know that people will react differently and respond differently. So I suppose be open to it. It's hard to predict what's going to happen. I think that there's other things that might be impacting people's mental health that's equally as, or maybe even more importantly than just these lockdowns. Over to you. What say you, Marcus Pearce?
Oh, phenomenal response, Damo. Phenomenal answer. And again, your vulnerability and just openness to be so raw and real is phenomenal. I don't actually want to add to the response. I actually feel like I just want to let you know what notes I took on what you just said, because I had my own aha moments in what you were saying, and particularly around how different people stress. It's a bit like we all eat slightly different food. We all have slightly different personalities. We're all unique human beings. And so we can't put anyone into a box, particularly in relation to their stress response.
Yeah.
And even in Pete's question, he was saying that Dr. Gabor Mate, trauma expert, he's a phenomenal man, Dr. Gabor Mate, but he was saying that, there is no inventory for trauma. We can't pop it in on the shelf and go, right, that's where that is, and that's how we deal with that. Yep. I think I'm just, I've lived a very different life to you over the last 18 months, Damo, but one thing I've noticed in my children is, even in particular at the moment, Maya, as a rule, is so happy, and she's just happy during the day, and then at night she's having trouble falling asleep, like more than normal, and then she's expressing all of her fears and anxieties, and I just want to go to school, but then I go to school, and then this happens, and then I just come home and I'm with my brothers, but I really want to go to school and I can't go to school. And what I'm saying is, all this stuff comes out in the nighttime, whereas for Darby, he is probably more likely to express all of that in the morning when his day doesn't have the normal structure and rhythm that he's so used to, and he will unleash on that, particularly in the morning. But then the rest of the day and the night, he falls asleep easily, and he just needs to unleash all of his uncertainties and anxieties in the morning. Maya does it all at night, and just last night as an example, once she unleashed it and I didn't try and fix it or correct it, and I just let her vent, you could just feel the deep sigh. And then it was like, okay, now I'm ready to fall asleep. And it just was a reminder when you were talking, Damo, that we cannot say that one person's stress response is better, worse, or right or wrong compared to another's, because as you said, someone out there is going to be like, oh yeah, those 2 years were screwed, but they picked themselves up, water off a duck's back almost, dust themselves off, and away they go. Whereas others are going to have a PTSD type response. And in many ways, as you talk, I think it's just going to challenge our acceptance of diversity even more. We're going to be challenged in not calling people weak for the hangover, as I feel it. Like, I feel like there's a hangover to this, which Pete's kind of put in, the 3-4 year bracket. I think that's going to be different for a number of us. I think I had mine really last week. I really felt like I was in bed for 3 or 4 days, exhausted. And my whole thing was, I just think I hadn't really come to terms with the last 18 months. And my body was like, you just got to take some time out.
Yeah.
I think all of us are different. Yeah. And this is something that is, for me, as I hear you talk, is going to be the big test for us all.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the big test. I think you mentioned something just before about the diversity, and I think that diversity piece needs to be expanded, and it's something I'd really like to talk with you about and have a really great big open discussion about it. As an episode, I think, is actually talking about what does diversity actually mean, because diversity and inclusiveness has continued to expand, and so the diversity of thought, or the diversity of emotion, or the diversity of gender, or the diversity of race, or the diversity of whatever has to encompass
everything.
Everything. Like, you can't have diversity of one thing and then say that you're diverse, because that's not the way it works. Like, you can't just have open-mindedness, about the types of paracetamol that you use, and that makes you open-minded and diverse in your thinking. Like, that's ridiculous. So diversity, if you're into diversity and inclusiveness, if that's a path of that you would like to take in your life, if you subscribe to diversity and inclusiveness, then it's not just for two things. It's not just for race and religion, or race and gender, or race, religion, and gender. It's for everything. Like, if you are diverse and inclusive, it's for everything. Otherwise, you are not diverse and inclusive. You are diverse and inclusive for 2 or 3 things, and then black and white, dogmatic, pig-headed, closed-minded to everything else. And so open your mind to that style of thinking. I think we're going to have a more abstract view of diversiveness and inclusiveness moving into the future, in order to be able to understand how children and adolescents and adults are going to deal with the impact of COVID in the future. I think that's where we're going to have to head.
Absolutely. I was just thinking, as you were saying, that your level of diversity is really in parallel to your levels of judgment. Or you could say on the other spectrum of your curiosity. The more judgmental you are, the less likely you are to be to accept diversity in all things.
Yeah.
And the less judgmental you are, the more open you are likely to be when it comes to any different topic of behavior, belief systems, and the rest. So that's almost a triple episode, Damo. I reckon a 10-parter on all the different, because one of the future conversations we have on my notes here is food and judgment.
Yeah.
There's so many different topics that rightly need to be unpacked in order to live the 100 not out lifestyle. Because I was thinking about it this morning. One of the common themes of the people that we interview on here is they just learn to love people regardless of like what they do and what they believe and what they eat and how much they're just very accepting human beings. And I think it's a lesson we're all learning the older we get and the more life throws at us. Now, would you believe it, Damo? We are bang on time. for this episode of 100 Not Out. We haven't even got to Pritesh. We might have to leave him for another episode.
Wow. Have you got time to do another backup episode right now?
I reckon I could.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's
I reckon
close
we can
this
double
episode off and then start a whole new episode because I think we should.
Yeah, whilst we've got a lot on Facebook, so don't go anywhere Facebook. You guys will get the double recording, and we will go now and wrap up this episode of 100 Not Out. Folks, for more information on the great man that is Damien Christoph, make sure you head on over to DamienChristoph.com. Damien with an A and no double F. Marcus Pierce is my name, and that's Pierce, E-A, like a pear. Yes. And no S in there, except in Marcus, and no K in the first name. MarcusPierce.com.au. How's that for confusing?
Lost. MP.com.
I don't even know how to spell your name anymore.
MP.com.
But to all of you, whatever your name is and wherever you are from, we thank you for listening to 100 Not Out. We hope you've enjoyed another episode, and we look forward to joining you next week. Until then, continue to make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Bye for now.
And let's keep going, Facebook, all the way into, I'm going to say, episode 440 in 3, 2, and 1. Hello and welcome to 100 Not Out, a weekly show dedicated to helping you master the art of aging well. Marcus Pierce here with you, and as always, believe it or not, I've got a man you may have heard of once or twice before. If you've been fortunate to meet him in the flesh, well, you've been more fortunate than others over the last 18 months because the great man has seen more of his home than he probably wishes. I'm talking about Dr. Damien Christoph. He's in day 500 of lockdown in Melbourne. DK, how are you, brother?
Did you say day 500? Is that what you said?
Oh, no, it's 610.
Yeah, we are in lockdown for a long time. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And we have to joke about it. You have to laugh about it because you can't do anything else. Otherwise, you find yourself in the pits. So I like that we can have a little bit of a cheeky little laughter about it. No doubt about it. It is taking its toll. But following on from last episode, where we spoke about the impact of COVID times on the mental health of adolescents and teenagers. Question brought to us by the great Peter Lennon, who missed it last episode. He missed it. He turned up too late. We thought that we would continue to ask more or answer more questions, and this time we got 2 questions from Pritesh, who has asked us some great questions, and we thought, well, surely I'm not going to waffle on and take a whole episode to answer one question this time. So hopefully we'll be able to do both your questions in this episode, Pritesh. So thank you, and please, everybody, if you've got questions, please fire them through Marcus Pierce, MarcusPierce.com, at marcuspierce.com.au. We don't have a 100 Not Out email, I don't think.
Just DM us. DM us on Facebook at 100 Not Out.
Yeah. Yep,
or
DM us, then everyone can see it. That's true. Yeah, good idea.
Out.
Yep, do that.
Yep.
DM.
And
DM.
Damo, just before we get into Protesh's question.
But if you're not on Facebook, then email Marcus at marcuspierce.com.au. Yeah. Because my mum, for example, isn't on Facebook or Instagram. So how's she going to get a question through to us?
She's going to send me an email.
Yeah.
Or she's going to just send her son a text message. Or even call him. Or when she can, pop around for a coffee. Hey, speaking of humour, in these challenging times. Yeah. Your friend, acquaintance, you can say whether a friend or acquaintance, definitely someone that I don't know personally. I thought I did, but I don't. His name is John Vertigan.
Oh, John Vertigan. How good is John?
Does the greatest COVID Cup race call, which has been featured on, is it Sunrise? One of the TV shows. Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Yep, I saw that on Instagram the other day. Well, Amber was just flicking through.
There's a few out there, but I think John Vertigan is the gold medal winner, undisputed.
Go, John.
And he's been on, is it with Koshy? It says everything Channel 7. Or was it with Carl? I can't remember. Anyway, one of them, and he's next level at it. There are a number of fierce competitors out there. I'm not going to say copycats. I'm going to say competitors because even John Vertigan may have been inspired by someone else. But if you want a bit of COVID comedy, just YouTube John Vertigan COVID Cup or COVID Race Call. Or
it's Jon too, not Jon. Jon for John.
Vertigan.
Yeah.
And have a listen. You'll laugh.
Do you know how I met John the first time?
Just through your fame, no doubt.
No. So I had just graduated as a naturopath, and I thought I was going to the Yarra Valley, but took a job down at the Latrobe Valley and went to the wrong valley. And I was in Traralgon and listening to 3TR I thought, what a great opportunity to do some commercials to raise awareness of naturopathy and natural medicine in the Valley. So I spoke to Karen, who I was working with, and said, hey, I want to do this for the pharmacy. Are you open to me doing a commercial on prostate health? She goes, yeah, what a great idea. So we reached out to 3TR, and John Vertigan and I recorded a prostate health radio commercial. And we started it off with a water bottle filled with water, and we squirted it into the toilet like stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. And then you hear my voice saying, are you struggling to move your stop, start, or your bladder or something like that, you may have an enlarged prostate. And so then I went on to talk about, come down to Kelly at Home's pharmacy and, come and speak to me. And that was how I met John Vertigan doing a prostate health commercial in my first year of naturopathy back in 1998, 23 years ago.
I have to give John a call because you've said give John a call and talk about a couple of interviews for the book. And now that I know that story, in the town where my wife was born,
Trogan,
where you worked, thinking that you were going to the Yarra Valley and you ended up in the Latrobe. That is a great story. I don't know whether to believe you.
It's true.
Whether you actually thought you were going to the Yarra Valley. Like, I know you were young, but not that young, but like young enough that I can believe that anyone could make that mistake.
Essentially what happened is I ended up having to turn right to head towards Pakenham.
Yep.
Upper.
Yep.
Compared to turning left and heading towards Ringwood.
Yep.
And I ended up in the wrong valley. And so I was down at Latrobe Valley.
Yeah.
But I did meet the great Di Coleman and Gary Coleman down there, which was one of the blessings of my life. Because without meeting Di and Gary, I wouldn't be a chiropractor today. So if it wasn't for me taking the right turn to the wrong valley, I wouldn't have met Di and Gary, and that would have meant that I wouldn't have gone to New Zealand, so I wouldn't have achieved what I achieved in New Zealand, and I wouldn't have probably caught up with Michelle and then had Jackson. And so there's a whole lot of stuff. That sliding doors moment is courtesy of me moving to the Latrobe Valley. So thank you, Big Smoke, Latrobe Valley.
That is a story that I've actually just added another connection because, as you may know, Gary and Di were Sarah's family chiropractors, and Sarah had her only chiropractic exposure to Gary and Di Coleman and was the only human contact she'd had before applying to become a chiropractor herself. So you and Sarah are both descendants of the Coleman clan.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Wow, that is incredible. That's incredible. Big shout out to Di and Gary. Wonder if Di's watching this. We should send her a little love note. We'll send Di a love note. We should both send her a love note after this.
Yeah, absolutely. We love Di. All right, so
Pritesh's question.
Mm-hmm. Do you want the sciencey one or do you want the deeper meaningful one?
Ooh, let's go science first. Let's go science first because that's usually pretty easy to answer.
A short answer. Yeah. Oh, here we go. You
science.
Might go down a rabbit hole.
It's only
science. Got another question for you. We should call this the segment from listeners who aren't on the Facebook Live when you think they're going to be. Hi guys, got another question for you. If you could shed some light, how does biodiversity in our body affect longevity? What does the literature say? Damo, get your textbooks out. I find my family members are really frightened of bacteria and viruses since COVID started. I'm trying to explain how we are alive due to synergistic relationships between us and all the bugs. Without it, we have little chance of survival. But I'm finding it hard to explain this in simple terms. Any help is much appreciated. You got some analogies, Damo. You got some beautiful visual descriptions and examples Pritesh can draw for his family so that he doesn't get into an argy-bargy.
Yeah, look, it's classic because right now there's so much monoculture in our thinking that we're not very diverse in our thinking. So the analogy of the health of your gastrointestinal system could be likened to the health of our external environment right now, in that the line of thought has gone a particular way, which makes a lot of things very uncomfortable. Now, the same would be said for your gastrointestinal system. If you have an overgrowth of bacteria, why don't we just given we're using an analogy that's linked to politics, why don't we just call these bacteria parasites? Because it's similar. So we're going to say if you've got an overgrowth of parasitic bacteria or pathogens in your gastrointestinal system, and that dominates your microbiome, then your other microbiome that might be well behaved and might have a different way of thinking and potentially have a different approach to health and well-being in your gut could be superseded or overrun by the pathogenic parasitic bacteria. So using the analogy of where we are right now, there's a train of thought that's very polarizing, where we've got parasites running the state, or I didn't mean to say that, where we've got a line of thought running the state that is outwardly alienating and making any other thought process redundant and insignificant, which means that there's no diversity of thought. It's a particular way, and that's unhealthful. And so many people are feeling unhealthy, and the same for your gastrointestinal system. The benefit of a diverse microbiome is that you have multiple approaches or multiple ways to actually offer your body protection, to signal change and shift in your body, to encourage growth and regeneration, whereas an environment that's very sterile or doesn't have exposure to different types of bacteria, particularly healthful types and probiotic types of bacteria, will lead to a unhealthy gut. So that's really what that would be.
So,
did I answer the question?
Absolutely. I want to know, is there an analogy outside of the social one at the minute? Like, is there, if a 5-year-old said to you, how do you explain, like,
yeah, it's like going to the footy, right? So let's say, for example, go to the footy, and then you've got 100,000 people at the MCG, and you've got 5,000 Greater Western Sydney supporters up in the top level of the Ponsford stand, and there's 95,000 Richmond supporters at the ground. It's much easier for the Richmond football team to play really well, which is good because you don't want Greater Western Sydney to play well anyway. So, because they've got Toby Green and so on and so forth. And so, but if, for example, the crowd numbers are more evenly distributed, or there's little pockets of supporters in and around the space, it's easier for the Greater Western Sydney team to play better. Now, if you're a Richmond supporter, that's not a great thing. If you're a Greater Western Sydney supporter, it's probably a great thing. But if you're a football lover, you want a great game. And so having a greater spread of a crowd will give you a better game, as opposed to just a one-sided game where there's just a big supporter base. Is that better?
I love it. As my wife would say, always bring it back to sport. You always find a way to bring it back to sport.
I wonder if we lost a lot of... Yeah, we lost a few viewers. We lost a few viewers just there. Sorry about that one. We lost a few viewers.
Sport is just very simple for us male brains. It's just a lot of good analogies in there.
Just easy.
Oh, that's so
Footy.
good.
Can't go wrong.
Now the deep and meaningful.
Yeah.
I'm on 1% on my phone, so I'll get this out before it dies.
Do it.
Hey guys, what are your thoughts on forgiveness being an integral part to being on the path to longevity? Warm regards, Pritesh.
Hello, Helen Pocock. Helen
She made it.
Yeah. Soon Pritesh will turn up too.
That's it. Good. Get in there, Pritesh.
Yeah. Thanks, Von. Love that. So, Pritesh, I love this question for so many reasons. Because forgiveness, as we've learned, is so important for the human condition. It's actually one of the great things that humans are able to do is forgive. Now, it's obviously steeped into faith that we could forgive and forget. We would do unto our neighbours as we would have done unto ourselves. So, most people have been exposed to those sorts of lines of literature, or phrases that might come from the liturgy. But what's interesting about that is that there's some truth to it. So if we consider some of the great people that we have interviewed through the years, and in particular, the people that have survived the Holocaust, they have had to forgive their captors in order to move on and move forward. That doesn't necessarily mean that they forget. In fact,
Correct.
they've all still got their mark. They've still got their number, their tattoo. They haven't gone to conceal that. They're not shamed of it or ashamed of it. They've been shamed from it. They've actually had to forgive to move on and to grow through. I have a suspicion that people who can't forgive get sick. And it's not easy to forgive. I can tell you, it's not easy to forgive, but it's a worthwhile pursuit to find forgiveness where there's been wrongs done or where there's been pain felt. So it's a worthwhile pursuit. In terms of whether or not it helps you live a long time, I suspect that it does, because in order to live a long time, you need to avoid chronic disease, and chronic disease is mainly caused by stress, and the inability to forgive is a perpetuator of stress for sure.
Great answer. And I do remember from a number of our interviews just how much the concept of time comes up with those, particularly the war survivors or the people that you feel would make it would be very hard to forgive, is that it does take time. And so for any of our listeners right now that there's people that you just don't want to forgive right now, like, that's completely okay. There is no reason that you have to like fast track it right now. I think sometimes you've got to feel all those feelings, and often I used to be guilty of this, particularly in my younger days, just feeling that like if you weren't in a positive or forgiving mood, then you were just subhuman. I think we've got to recognize that part of the human experience is going down that path. I mean, Eddie JQ told us in interviews that he was a grumpy man. He was not the world's happiest man. He was carrying, why did I survive? Why all my family dead? He was a grumpy man. He had a mechanic. He was a grumpy mechanic. He had jobs. He was grumpy in his jobs. He couldn't believe his wife Flor was staying with him because he was a grumpy husband. And it wasn't until he had his first son, who I think is Michael, that he was like, I can't be a grumpy dad as well.
No.
Like, that was his thing.
Yes.
And that's when he decided that it was time to move through that attitude of resisting forgiveness. And he did all of the work on hate, and he realized how it had been like a disease to him, and it had impacted his life more than the people that he hated. And that's for me the big common thing is there's actually a healthy selfishness to forgiveness. You do it because you have the self-worth that you want to move on in your life. It's actually got less to do with the other people that you're forgiving. It's more about you being able to move forward. And there's a number of bits of research that will show you that it does impact your longevity. But I would say the bigger concern is, what does it do for your quality of life? Whether you're 35 or 55 or 75, if you're feeling like you've got some toxic resentment living inside of you, and you don't have any ambition to ever move through it, then I think that's going to impact your quality of life more. But, I know, for example, right now, I'll just put Damo in a box here for a minute. I know Damo is not going to forgive, and probably millions of Victorians right now, is not going to forgive Dan Andrews or other people they might be triggered by right now. But there might be a time in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, this will be etched in the lives of Victorians for years to come. And it's a bit like what we said on the last episode. Some of the impacts of the times right now we won't know for the next 3 to 4 years, but there's also the positive impacts of that as well. The levels of compassion that may be generated in the next 2 to 10 years and beyond.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it has to be holier than now, instant forgiveness right now. And I think that's important to recognize.
I agree with you. I agree with you enormously. Yeah, I do. 2 great books that will cover this topic. This great book will cover this topic. It's unbelievable. And you can't put it down once you read it. And I've got mates that are reading at the moment. I had patients yesterday buy it. I'll give a great shout out to the great Morris Efron yesterday who purchased this.
Thanks, Morris.
I think it might be his 3rd copy he's purchased. He loves it. He buys it for his children. He's bought it for his friends. It's a wonderful, great book. And the art of forgiveness and the impact of it is covered in this book. So the other thing is this great book And I'm very happy to
Yes.
put these books alongside each other on my cabinet because they're written by two great men. So get amongst it. Get Your Exceptional Life. It's an unbelievable book. And then Eddie Jaku's The Happiest Man on Earth. Big shout out to my patients, Jack and Naomi, who purchased this for me and gave me this. And I'm eternally grateful. This is a hard copy.
It's a great book.
Hard copy.
Eddie's book.
I love it.
Yeah.
I've listened to it, but then to receive it in the flesh is fantastic. So,
And let's send Eddie JQ lots of love as well. Lots of love to you, Eddie.
Yeah.
Lots of love to you, Eddie.
Yeah, I hope he is well. Yeah, so going back to that forgiveness piece, you said something there about compassion, which is really important, Piercy. And I think this is important for everybody to kind of reflect on, because in stressful times or in the moments of stress, it's actually, I don't know, I don't want to say impossible, but it's not possible to be compassionate, because you fire up you go up a scale of stress in the sympathetic nervous system, which renders it very difficult for the body to move into an emotional state or into a caring and nurturing, less stressed, unstressed parasympathetic state. When you're going up and flying up through the sympathetics, you can't embrace the parasympathetics. And so it's difficult and almost not possible. I'm not going to say impossible. Almost not possible to move into being compassionate when you're stressed.
I think that's a great, just to identify that. I think that's so important.
So
and
be
it's a bit
careful
like whatever
is what I
you're
want
feeling.
to say. Yeah, be careful. Be kind. The great Vicky Kelly said to us one day, "This is the decade of the survival of the kindest." I can't remember what decade that was. I don't remember what year it is, but I reckon it's this decade. And so this decade, it's the survival of the kindest. And I really, truly believe that if we are kind, we will find it easier to move from sympathetics, which is a switched-on, charged state, into the parasympathetics, which is a resting, healing, regenerating, repairing state of mind and being and life, and it's good for us to be kind, to shift into a more compassionate space.
Well done. Geez, I've loved this episode. Loved our last two. These Q&As are great. I want more Q&As, Damo. That requires more questions from our listeners, or else we have to do the old fabrication of the question. John from Epping asked this question.
John from Traralgon got a question on prostate health.
I was wondering why.
Oh, why?
No, so
why can't I stop and why can't I start and I find it really hard to stop?
So we want your questions, guys. If you're on the socials, at 100 not out, spell it all out on Facebook. If it's on Instagram, at 100.not out, or email Marcus at marcuspierce.com.au, and I'll organise the questions into a couple of episodes. If you're with Damo at Vita Lifestyles in Sandringham, send him a little love note. Say, please ask this question on the next episode. Leave it with one of the angels at the desk. Say, please, can Damo do an episode on this? We want to answer your questions. There's so much. Well, I think we've got about another 500 episodes of content up our sleeve here, but we want to prioritise it. And I think we're in a time of answering your questions, as many as we can. So, Damo, thanks for your wisdom and your insights as always. It's been a joy.
Thank you so much, Piercy. Great to be able to chat and just share. I think it's been really nice to be able to share. I just want to do a little shout out to Christopher Sarandis. Chris just bought the book. Thanks for the recommendation. Yeah. Damo. There we go.
Just came through on the old iPhone. Thank you very much, Chris. That's very kind. Love a bit of, that's real-time support. Thanks, Damo.
Love that.
I have to set you up with some royalties, Damo.
Nah.
You need another box of books down there by the sound of it. Morris Efron buying you out.
Nearly cleared me out. It's pretty good,
Jeepers.
mate. I'll have to transfer you some cash.
I'll send you some more books first. Hey, thanks to everyone that's been a supporter of this podcast. If you're in Melbourne, there's no doubt best healthcare in town, Vita Lifestyles in Sandringham. If you're in Byron Bay, can't look after you as well as Damo can in Melbourne, but you're always welcome to drop a note and say hello. But to all of our listeners, continue to make the rest of your life the best of your life. And until next week, Damo,
bye for now.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Great to have you on, Facey. How do we do this to Instagram as well? Can you do it like an Instagram TV, IGTV?
Oh, there's a bit of software that doesn't include Instagram yet. There might be, but there is one software called Restream where you can go on multiple places, but it doesn't include Instagram at the moment. So,
Right.
yeah, you'd have to really funk it up.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to get another microphone, another camera, and
Mm-hmm.
you could do it, but it's a bit complex.
Okay.
Yeah.
Might be
Anyway.
worth it. Might be worth it. IGTV, 100 not out IGTV. That could be the way to go.
That's it. But you could download this file and upload it there, but then it wouldn't be alive.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm.
Next, we'll be on TikTok.
People are telling me how addictive
Can you
it is,
imagine
so
that?
I'm not getting on there.
Jeez.
Longevity hacks. Gee whiz, we could make a mozza on TikTok. Sheepers. Imagine all the longevity hacks we could give them, Damo.
I know.
Whoa.
That'd be pretty good, actually.
Go wild. That would be
Longevity
fun.
hacks.
Imagine if we live near each other. You want to move to Byron?
Yeah. I really do. I really do.
Come on. Oh, dear. My
Got a great
phone's
practice
died.
here, though, and just bought a
Yeah.
house, so can't
Oh,
really
no,
do
so
that.
not happening anytime soon. Not happening anytime soon.
No.
Hey, I can't see anything on the Facebook, so I'm just going to say thanks to everyone on Facebook because my phone died.
Yeah, Von
Better
Peters
pop it
says
on the
loving the
charger.
book. Von Peters.
Great.
Helen Pocock, loving the book, Marcus.
That's so good. Thanks for the love, guys.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Loving it. All right.
Alrighty.
Take
Thanks,
care,
Facebook.
mate. You obviously not going to footy right now?
No, lockdown central.
Yeah. It's not really lockdown central. We are lockdown central. You're locked down a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know all the different. I don't know the lockdowns versus the lockdowns. I just know we're locked down.
There's talk about having what's it called, curfews again here.
Oh, yeah, there were curfews, weren't there?
Yeah.
But if you want to know something off the record, which is on the record because it's on Facebook, like there is a lot of there's a lot happening when you talk to the locals and you talk to your friends. Like there's a lot of I don't want to talk too openly actually, but
Unrest.
yeah, but even just in official capacities, like I won't say it, but
I don't believe it anyway.
no, I'll tell you off air. But there's things.
Just realised where we were.
Oh no, just there's
No,
no.
you got to
way
be careful. You got to be careful. We don't know. We could have trolls. We could have a troll watching us.
I can't code
We might
it.
not.
No,
They might not even be real. The people that
I'm
are
not
watching
even meaning
us.
to be controversial. I'm more like
Larry Christoph might not even be really Larry Christoph. We don't even know.
No,
Ravi
I'm not even
Rudner.
meaning to be,
He could be. I mean, that could be Ed Sheeran for all we know.
I think it is.
Could
I'm
he?
not even meaning to be controversial, is what I'm saying.
Could he?
But I just don't want to be.
And Ashley Ladd, my cousin Ashley, might not even be Ashley Ladd, my cousin Ashley. I don't. Thank you, Ash.
We better get off Facebook before anything happens.
See ya.
Before Zuckerberg knocks on our doors.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
See you, mate. See you, Facebook.
See you guys.
Catch you later.
Don't go anywhere, Damo. Stay there. Stay there.
Bye, 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 bye.